do it.
Republicans
Let
will
me
vote
see.
for it.
I didn't know.
It's now 7 o'clock.
Well, you have to go to the crazy.
Right?
Clara, this is exactly what happens to people. They don't believe that.
Call the meeting back. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, corrections? Item number 3. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. None. Councillor Wayman will be joining us by Zoom.
Potentially. He's sick.
Item 4, delegations, presentations, or petitions. 4.1, the RCMP report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So the monthly report for the month of May, I'll just go over the numbers quickly. So there's uptake in calls for service, an average of about 13 or 14 a day. For 417 calls throughout the month, 36 of those were violent offenses, assaults, 3 sexual offenses, break and enter, a dozen mental health act files, 14 theft under 5,000 files, 37 liquor act, and 105 mischief cause disturbance files. Impaired driving complaints were at 7, and other complaints. And I don't know if anybody's ever mentioned this when I was looking at the reporting and making that up. So the 202, that totals, almost 50% of our calls. So those are calls that are made up of calls to 911, calls that are for assistance to territorial partners, that would be social services. EMS will often request our attendance at residence. Breach of court orders, child welfare calls, well-being checks. We do a number of those, certainly with the GNWT, some workplace policies as well. Suspicious person and vehicles, and then pretty much everything related to traffic, collisions, motor vehicle act, they all fall into those other complaints. Yeah, we were able to make what looks to be about a dozen referrals to victim services in the last month, which is definitely an increase in what we normally see. So that's good that people are willing to take the services that are offered. Yeah, we had a busy month in terms of our community involvement. We are in the transfer cycle right now, so we have members going out and members coming in, and a lot of planning going on in between the lines. But I was very impressed by the membership's ability to get out and participate in the community. So during the month of May, Inuvik RCMP responded to 36 complaints of violence, including 6 reports of assault with a weapon or causing bodily harm, 1 report of forcible confinement. 7 of these investigations involved intimate partner violence. And, just the usual, we're always working with our service providers to make those timely and try to reduce those prevalence of violence. And in this month, our detachment hosted a partner appreciation event where we had victim services, probation, EMS, community justice, and others to gather and discuss, improving service delivery. And also in the month, there were 7 complaints of impaired driving, 2 of which were cleared by criminal code charge. It was National Road Safety Week from the 17th to the 23rd, and an impaired driving enforcement day on the 21st. So during the Road Safety Week, we checked over 65 vehicles, issuing warnings for seatbelt use and carrying a valid driver's license. However, numerous tickets were issued for lack of registration, lack of insurance, and not having a valid driver's license. We worked alongside the municipal enforcement partners with that. Conducted a number of check stops, especially on the National Enforcement Day. And I'm pleased to say that there was only 1 24-hour suspension that was given. ASD was used, and it was a warning, so that's an appropriate response to that. And we also helped a number of times just walking the little ones to and from the Children's First Center there, and use those as opportunities to discuss pedestrian road safety. So our members are continuing to maintain a visible presence in the community. So despite higher than normal calls for service this month, we participated on a weekly basis at the East Through School, the breakfast program, provided presentations to elementary students on bicycle and water safety, as well as presentations on drug and alcohol awareness to the junior and high school classes. Our members attended the MMWIG events on May 5th, sharing food, listening to participants' experiences, playing games. Foot patrols continue to occur and become a regular part of the members' day and night shifts. Constable Lucy Kulaki attended the swearing in of the Native Band Chief on the 16th of May. And congratulations to Chief Robert Tiplici and counselors. The police visited the youth center, often stopped by the skate park, kind of started a new thing, taking around juice boxes and stuff, you know. It's heating up out there, so the kids seem to really like that. Gives us a chance to get to know them as well. And I will continue to make community engagement a priority for our detachment, regardless of workload, but understanding that may ebb and flow our ability to do as much as we would like to do. So yeah, that's really about it. Right now, we're doing our community consultations to establish policing priorities, albeit about a month late on RCMP's at least perspective to a new strategic plan for the year. It is not changing much, but there are a couple of new initiatives. The Department of Justice has mandated the RCMP to prioritize illegal drug trafficking, illicit drug trafficking and bootlegging, and also working on some mechanisms to make our organization more transparent to the public.
Thank you for the report and thank you for the community involvement. It's much appreciated. Does council have any questions?
Good work.
None? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You should go home now.
Yes. Great debate. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, number 5, public question period. Any questions from the public?
My name is Carter. I'm here.
If you could turn on the mic there
Little button there.
There you go.
and state your name.
Cara Dillon, Karradilon. I called to the complex to rent a hall on July 18th. That's the last day that the Great Northern Art Festival has it. I spoke to Dieter Weiss. He said only thing he's gonna be doing on the 18th is cleaning the kitchen. And I just, because I asked if they're gonna be done, he said yes. But there was a motion made for Great Northern Arts Festival to have for that date. But like I said, he said he's going out of there by the morning of the 18th, and that's when I wanted to rent it. But the lady that runs it told me to come here because it was made by motion and that she can't override me. You guys could.
Any comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski?
Just a clarification question. It's just the community hall area, or is it the community hall and the kitchen?
No, this all.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councilor Merrill?
The staff looking after the hall have any concerns, or they're okay if we change things? I'm just thinking,
We'd have to check
Jackie
with
know, or who would know? Please, okay, thank you. Is that something we could check on?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any comments, S.A.O. Hood?
At this time, no, because this is the first I've heard of it, so what I'll do is, if the Great Northern Art Festival are not using it just because we're doing it, there should be no reason why we can't rent it out. That way it's not being used. I'd rather use the facility than it sit there empty.
Councilor Devlin?
Yeah, we were packed out by Sunday night, particularly in the community hall, because it's just used as a dining hall. So that room will be packed out by Sunday night anyhow, so
So it wouldn't be an issue.
I don't think from that special perspective. Yeah.
Okay, we can't make a motion tonight, but we'll just make a decision one way or the other for Wednesday night. Is that okay with you? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving on. 6.1, adoption of the minutes of the May 25th, 2022 council meeting. Any discussion? Any corrections?
Not now. I didn't even get a chance. So
Okay. Item 7.1, the action items list. Any questions on the action items? New business, 8.1. Strategic priorities chart. That's been updated or revised. Two items had been accomplished as a result of these changes. The SAO and directors revised their operational initiatives to align with council revisions. Those revisions and updates are presented for approval by council. So we have two options: to make a motion to approve the proposed strategic priorities chart as presented, or refer it back to administration. So the recommendation is that be it resolved, the Newbury Town Council hereby approves the strategic priorities chart as presented. Any questions? Councillor Devlin.
Just had a more procedural question. Do we vote on this every couple of weeks, or do we just review it every few weeks? It just seems like,
We sent it back.
did we send it back? Okay, I just wanted to get some clarification there. 'cause I
There
just-
was a question you had about some of the dates. so
That's
we went
right.
back
That's
and
right.
did it, So it are
Okay.
presenting, but normally it would be
I just felt like we just passed the motion on this. Okay, I appreciate
quarterly or unless we achieve some of the goals.
it. Thank you.
Okay, anything
Yeah, we'll
further?
come.
Okay.
8.2, final operating and capital budget. A motion will be, if you decide, be it resolved, the Newbury Town Council hereby approves the town of Newbury 2022 operating and capital budget as presented. I believe SAO Wood has a few comments.
I do, thank you, Mary Wood. As you know.
Your mic's not on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm nervous, you know. So anyways, I'm pleased to present to you with the proposed town of Newbury final operating capital budget for fiscal 2022. On the surface, there appears to be a little change, but behind the scenes, there have been some areas of change which will, when you add the pluses and minuses together, it takes the town from a small 54K deficit to a balanced budget. With this presentation, I trust the information provided will allow council to approve the revenue expenditures for fiscal 2022. I also want to thank the directors and managers for their assistance in developing what we believe is an achievable operational and capital budget. So as you can see, we've gone from a deficit of 54,034 presented in the interim budget to a balanced budget in front of you. During the time we presented the interim budget and this proposal, we've been in a better position to estimate revenues with our funding partners. This, coupled with staff vacancies and improved operating efficiencies, has contributed to the bottom line change. From reviewing our utility costs, most notably electricity, and the proposed increase that has been factored into this year's forecast as best we can based on current year's usage along with historical usage. This budget retains the proposed 3.5% increase from the interim budget. This may seem like a large amount, but from the actual monetary point, it amounts to a net of $148,000, which even with the staff vacancies does not cover the salary benefit cost increase from 2021. It should be noted that 50% of the residential properties in the town are below the mean assessment value of $145,300. And this proposed increase would result in a maximum of $87.18 increase in 2022. For an assessment of $350,000, the increase would amount to $210 per year. From this budget of forecast, you can see that while we have achieved savings through the year on staffing and vacancies in other small areas, we face some difficult decisions in the next 2 years. This may involve deferring or even canceling some capital projects. The forecasts have taken into account a 3.5% tax increase in the next 2 years. So I'm going to try and summarize the changes in this presentation and answer questions that you may have regarding from it. Well. So nice. Again, if you see a summary comparison of the operating revenue and expenses. So as you can see, we continue to provide an operating surplus used to invest in our capital expenditures. Without this surplus, many of our capital projects would simply not be achieved. This is a normal practice, however, just like in a business takes your profits for moving back into it. So as you can see, we have a net variance of $345,000 from our operating. Okay, so some of the revenue changes in terms, sorry about that. Good thing it didn't happen too much in the ADE, but anyway, revenue changes in the internal budget, final budget. So the property tax remains at 3.5% as per the interim budget revenue. It also creates another $28,000 increase due to revised assessments that have come out now. We have the final assessments, which we did not have during the interim budget. Royalty fees for the soil farm agreement were not included in the interim budget, but in this budget it's $130,000. There is a correction to the seniors tax rebate. It actually reduced our revenue by $101,000. The director of finance misunderstood how that worked. And with the COVID restriction now eliminated greater rentals of the MSC along with additional ADE revenue. And there's some adjustment of the capital projects funding that was delayed from 2021 again. When we do the interim project, we haven't got to year end, therefore something will change in certain expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So the first department I want to talk about is Department 10, which is the administrative department. Typically, this department will show a large surplus as the property tax revenue and other general revenue costs are contained within the department. The surplus, though, has decreased by $47,000 $415, but there are a few major adjustments between the internal and final budget. So some of the major notes is that $101,000 that I had mentioned earlier. There is savings from staff vacancies of $45,000. We have an increased insurance expense of $11,000, and but we are getting an additional investment income of $14,000. I think they're just with the amount of money that we have in the bank plus the increase in interest rate. Moving on to Department 20. So overall, the department deficit is reduced by $3,000, and that was just some minor changes. There's no major contributing factors as to why that happened. So Department 30, which is the public services, overall the department deficit has increased by $33,150. The factors to that are the increase in snow removal due to costs already expended. We had an enormous amount of snow this year, more than normal, and we have spent much more than we normally do by this time of the year. So we just added a bit of contingency for the fall. Which we've got a new dust abatement product that we've purchased that'll last for a while, but it has an increase of $60,000 as it is a better product, a more environmentally safe product. And so we've gone and taken that. We have had some staff vacancies, which is amounted to actually $70,000. And there is a small increase for the Christmas light of $10,000 due to the installation cost for free from Power. We now have to hire somebody to come in and do it. So we've taken that, but that still allows us to, what we normally budgeted of $50,000 for any new lights, et cetera, that we've had over the years. Next department is Department 40, which is environmental, which is a solid waste site, garbage, cemetery, etc. So overall, the deficit has increased by $38,000. Factors to that is on the good side, we've got a new revenue stream for royalties from the soil farm. which we're estimating at $130,000. We've already brought in close to 115 already this year, so. Yeah. We've got a net increase in tipping fees. We've upped the tipping fees by $30,000, of which 15 goes to the contractor, 15 goes to us. Again, are those guaranteed? No, but we feel just based on what we've done so far this year. There is a solid waste for the garbage collection that has gone up $54,000 per year. And then in the solid waste operation expense has gone up $129,000. The reason, and at the time of the interim budget, that contractor tender had not yet been opened for the next 5 years. Therefore, we didn't have the exact numbers. Now we have what that is. We're budgeting accordingly.
Just on the solid waste collection fees part, is that because of the new contract with the collection?
There are some
As well?
corrections that came out.
Okay.
Because there is added, some added bins and things like that got it added on. So the economic development tourism, overall, their deficit has been reduced by $178,642. Factors for that is staffing vacancies, unfortunately, accounted for $132,000. However, the ADE revenues have increased by $25,000 with the transition to a hybrid, like an in-person virtual event. And also some additional funding of $25,000 was also achieved as a result of to cover the in-person. So that all added help to reducing that deficit. Department 60, which is the water and sewer utilities, overall the department operating surplus was reduced by $3,712. And again, there's no major changes on that one. Little bits here, little bits there. Department 70, overall department operating deficit reduced by $195,000. Major factors, again, we've added because of when we did the interim budget, we had no idea when COVID was going to, that was happening. Now that we're in a better position and we're seeing our venue rentals that becoming more positive. So it's off the right. So we've added additional rentals in there for the venue. We've also received funding for some seniors program in the amount of $65,000. So that'll be coming down the line and getting that. And we've overall reduced staff costs due to vacancies, but you'll notice that some of it's been kind of moved around. One's higher than the other one, the intern, but overall it's $104,000 reduction in staff vacancies. Department 71 with the library, overall department operating deficit, it was reduced by $28,000. And a reoccurring theme here in that it was just vacancies, net of increased casual labor because we did have to up the casual labor. The Xerox costs, which were unfortunately, I apologize, missed in the interim budget, amounts to $4,000. The lands department, overall department, the operating surplus has decreased $2,000. This is due to the death of one of the leaseholders. We have some leases and one of those people passed away. So that property now reverts back to the town, and the town has a policy that was passed many, many years ago of not getting in there, getting out of the leasing business and that. So there is some interest from people handling the estate to actually purchase the property. However, when that's going to happen exactly, because there are some legal loopholes, et cetera, that they have to go through. So we've not budgeted anything in it. It could come through this year, it could come through next year. So we've taken a conservative approach of not budgeting it for this year. The fiscal, which is Department 90, which is sort of the catch-all, overall the surplus was reduced by $233,000. The reason being is that our own O&M funding for the GenWG actually increased. It sounds weird, but $29,000, but we reduced our capital reserves of money taking out of our previous year's surpluses and stuff like that by $211,000, only because of savings you've seen on all the other deficit changes that we've had going along. So however, overall funding for capital projects has been reduced by $43,000. It's primarily due to the change in the amount of capital reserves being used due to timing differences at the end. They'll explain that a couple of times. So anyways, as far as Department 90 and the capital expenditures, really, there was only minor adjustments to a couple of capital projects where we've actually finished the capital project. We know what the actual value is. We can actually put that in. One was higher, one was lower. So that they kind of cross each other out. And that there are no new added projects to the budget. So what was presented in the income budget is we have not added anything in. So overall, our capital expenditures actually increased by 241,000, but previously mentioned, this was a result of some of the projected expenses not being completed on the project in fiscal 21, therefore carried forward along with any applicable funding to fiscal 2022. And with that, I thank you for your time. And if you do have any questions with that brief thing, I'm certainly willing to answer them.
Any questions?
Well done.
Seeing none. Thank you, SAO Hood.
Thank you, staff.
Item 8.3. Additional use development permit application group table.
We have representatives here should council have some questions.
Okay. Application for development permit has been submitted by the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation. Development of a day group home, single detached dwelling at 83 Inuit, lot 19, block 32, plan 328. The proposed development is in R1, residential low density. The development is listed as a conditional use of the zone and therefore requires permission from town council to proceed. Current building was previously a daycare facility that's being transitioned into a day use group home. Council has the option of approving the required development as submitted, denying the approval, or approve the development with conditions. Would you like to make a presentation or answer questions?
Just to answer questions.
Okay, council. Hi, Councilor Merrill.
Oh,
I could
actually,
say something.
Okay,
please.
Okay. I'm Susan Pepper. We wanted to open a day program for people like that. We see them all the time on the streets, like, you know, I mean, not just on the streets, but everywhere. So when we don't have a place to bring them, like absolutely nowhere to bring them. If we're gonna talk with them, there's nowhere to bring them. So we need a place in that day program. There's gonna be like, you know how Inuvik Works used to work? Where they go get their resumes done, make sure they have their ID, healthcare card, and everything like that. So that was the proposal that was put in to Inspire. And that's what we're going to do. We want to open a hope house because our people in Inuvik need hope. And where else can they go but to, and people are tired of them in the buildings, in the stores, you know, they can't come in there to use the washroom, nothing. So that's why we wanted to work together with Peggy Day and myself and Lucy Kuptana and Veronica Kasuk. We wanted to work together to provide something, a safe place for people to go and not feel they have to be asked to leave every time. So that's how Hope House was created.
good to hear. I assume that Peggy's using her Arctic Inspiration Prize.
Yes.
Great, good to see it put to use. Councilor Merrill, you had a question?
This is the building that Head Start used to be in, is that right?
Yes.
Any other questions, Councilor Devlin?
Is this, with this program, is this for Nuvia beneficiaries only, or is it open to all?
It's open to anyone. It's open to anyone.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Merrill?
Are there any limits on who could come or what sort of state they're in or their behavior while they're there? Like, how would that be monitored?
I knew that was going to come up. It's going to be monitored. I mean, if they're like, what's that word, inebriated, we won't allow that. Like, you know, we want our people to get well
And the more we encourage them and the more we welcome them, they're going to be encouraged to do well. So we will monitor that. There's going to be two staff, where there's going to be a permanent staff there, one, and then there's going to be a counseling, another space for a counseling program.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you very much for presenting. I guess my question is just to clarify, it's just a day program. So it would be like, say, from 8 until 5 kind of thing, and is that correct?
There may be some evening programs, like, you know, if they're having sharing circle or a support group, we may be open in the evening too, depending on how they plan their program.
But no one will ever stay there.
No
Right.
one else will ever. There's even going to be an outside place for them to do carving or, you know, make stuff if they want to make stuff on the outside. So I think it's going to be a really good place.
Councillor Merrill.
Well, that's why in the development permit, you can see that we're building a fence to provide privacy and then people are.
I would like to say that there really is no place in Inuvik that's offering this sort of supportive environment that's being described. I think this will be the first time there's been a space dedicated that isn't being used for something else at other times, and then you have to clean stuff up and pack up and go. So people have a sense of ownership about the space and feel safe there.
And feel safe, for sure.
I think this has been needed for quite some time,
Yes, I believe
as you
that.
said, to give people some hope. Well, any further questions, Councillor Harden?
I think this is a wonderful idea. It's a great proposal. There are going to be some questions from homeowners probably about what's happening in that neighborhood, because that seems to always come up when somebody asks for respective amendment to the restrictions on this. But I think it's a great idea and it's definitely much needed. So look forward.
I just want to say that there may be a lot more traffic there, but it's going to be fenced, like the back part area is going to be fenced, so, and people can't just come and go, you know, as they please. They're going to be, they'll be running programs there, so hopefully this will help. But I drop in for people to come and go.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
I just ask one more question.
SAO Hood, did you want to clarify? Oh, sorry.
So just to clarify for people, it sounds like you're also saying that if people are coming and going, you're also monitoring what's happening outside, and it doesn't become a place
Oh,
where people
yeah.
are loitering. People are coming and engaging where they're not there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, and does that mean, I know Peggy D at one time had asked about using 5 Berger, which at one time was a warming center. So this would be the replacement for it.
Yeah, that was the original. They had looked at doing it and the cost to repair that building was too much. Then we looked at other options and this one was within their budget to do the repairs to fund the facility.
It's excellent.
SAO Hood, did you want to clarify conditional use for council?
Yes, I could. So in our zoning bylaw, each zone is broken down. There are certain, how you call it, uses that every zone has that are doing it. However, each zone also has what are called conditional uses, and those are uses where the council feels that, yes, there's a potential that something, that a development could be put in, but depending on the circumstances of where it is, what it is, they would prefer that that it would come to council, because normally this is a residential area, therefore putting in a group home, there's a, you know, it was a daycare before, so there is some history there. But every zone has these conditional uses and that, and so it's just a way to, the council has a chance to review areas that may not be under normal circumstances used in that zone, but however could be used without much detriment to what the zone is designed for.
Councillor Hart.
So just to clarify, this is just conditional use. We're not rezoning anyone.
No, we're not, no, that's a whole separate process.
Councilor Merrill,
Is there any process whereby the people in the neighborhood are advised of what the plan is?
Not under conditional uses. No, however, if council wishes, and that's why has come to council, council could put conditions also on the development permit to say, before they approve it, do you want a public meeting on it, or however council feels that they want to do on it. Because that's again, why it's a conditional use, because council can also put conditions on the development.
yes,
I have a question.
Mhm.
What's the difference between a daycare, like Aboriginal Head Start, and a day program? Like, I don't see a difference. Is there?
I would say there's actually a huge difference. It's the size of the people, quite honestly. Like children come in, they're contained, adults looking after them. Much easier to manage when you're dealing with adults who have social issues. You have a far greater chance of there being a disruption, thus the need to have it managed. And that's why I was asking about people not loitering outside or being really inebriated in the neighborhood. So I think the public would see it as very different. You're not going to have a lot of traffic because most of the people you're dealing with are walking, but you may run into people wanting to just hang out there without actually being inside and engaging. And that's where then staff would need to set that limit.
further questions?
So if I may clarify, in the conditional uses under daycare is a conditional use and group home is a conditional use. So they both mentioned in it, so specifically.
What start date are you looking at?
We can start construction right away. We've gotten the quotes and everything, and it'll probably take 6 weeks to do all the construction, so. Yeah, August, hopefully it gets in the summertime.
Thank you.
Councilor Gallants,
Thank you for the presentation. I guess I'm not familiar with the two homes that are in existence right now. So I'm trying to understand how your home would be different because I'm trying to understand what would bring people to the home, help them engage, and actually benefit from what you want to do. You know, you've got two existing homes already designed to help people on the street. So I'm trying to understand how your home's different or your concept's a bit different between what we have now and what you're proposing.
I don't understand. We
He
don't
wants
have,
to-
we don't have any.
He's saying we have 2 shelters, so he wants to know.
Oh,
what's
no, oh,
different.
those are the shelters where people live in, they sleep there. This is a day program where people will go there to, like, say if I lost my ID and I need an ID, so I go up there and somebody will help me. Instead of me going to the building down there, to the health services here, you know, we could all do it in one place where everything is accessible. So it's, nobody's going to be sleeping there. It's a day program. It will be day programming. There will be
Towards
programs.
services.
Yeah, services.
Okay.
The current shelters don't have any day program. The residents leave at 8 or 8:30 in the morning
No, they don't.
and they,
It's 24 hours.
oh, it is 24 hours?
Yeah. but-
Oh, sorry.
Can I just,
Okay, I'll
sorry, I
stop.
don't mean to interrupt. Can I just say what Susan's describing is accurate because at a shelter, you're just literally being sheltered. You don't have the staff to do all the services. You don't have the environment to do the services
Okay.
because you could have somebody who's being very disruptive where the others want to engage. So this is literally a safe place for people to go and engage in a quiet place.
Okay.
And I have no doubt it would take on a sense of a place where people feel safe enough to start healing or exploring things. That's the great difference. Shelters can be very disruptive. So there, I mean, I'd see we've always seen this, anybody working on the social service side in town, there is that need for a safe place to go. And I think when it's been tried before, it's never been a place that's been long-term. That's why I was asking about other uses, because it's always been, you can have this building for these hours, but then it goes back to being this.
Yeah.
So this is a place dedicated to that sense of literally hope and everybody coming together and working together. So there is definitely a need, there is a difference from the shelters.
I
If
guess
that helps.
that's what I'm trying to get my head around is what's gonna help you get the clientele to the shelter and actually engage in services you want to deliver, so.
Already, we work all the time, like year round with people. So we have the Resolution Health Support Program. We have the NETAP, like in the band. They have programming going there too, on a daily basis. So we know the clientele. So that's who's going to be coming in and out of the building.
Councillor Harder.
Do you have any other proposed locations for this, or is this the one trick pony, like, this is what you got? No other proposed locations for this, if things were going right?
No, like I said, they looked at the old warming shelter and it was just too much. So this is the only option that we have right now. I don't think there's any other buildings that we could do something like this in.
Any further questions? Councillor Merrill.
Will there be a way that the neighbors are advised of the program and what the idea is? Because I think that might cut down on any anxiety if people hear rumors or aren't quite sure what it means or what's happening, or even an open house to explain it to people. Whether that's, we do something formal, or the group with Susan and Peggy and whatnot do something to give people that information.
You'd like to see an open house?
Well, I'd like to see some way where people know beforehand what's going to be happening, what's proposed there, so you don't get a
Public
reaction.
education program of some kind?
Sure, or I don't know, I know at times we've done public hearings, I don't know if this quite has to go to that point. Because this isn't like dropping a shelter into a neighborhood, this is quite different.
Yeah. No, it's not the same. It's more like a combination adult education center and a service center, so to speak, for the underprivileged. So any further questions, comments?
I think it's just,
Councillor Harder?
sorry, just getting back to Alana, yeah, I think it's just, it could be kind of a bombshell to some residents in the neighborhood to have. So, boom, you're just putting this in a residential neighborhood. So I do agree that there needs to be a little bit more awareness on this matter.
We'd like to see some sort of a public hearing then.
I don't know if it needs to go
Not a
that far.
hearing.
Yeah, not a hearing.
I wouldn't say hearing either. I think just more of maybe an open night where folks, we could do something and have the proponents, you guys here to clarify questions so that there's an understanding that this is what you're going to be doing. And that way people aren't confused and people aren't going to make assumptions on what they've heard. That's going to be in the building.
Any suggestions, Grant? Councillor Devlin.
It's a simple communications thing. I would just put a one sheeter out and hit the next 5 neighbors on each side and we'll hand deliver just a one sheeter explaining, hey, this is what's happening when we're doing here. Okay, that's all that needs to be done. It's pretty easy thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's an informational thing, as long as you hand deliver it, so you can at least say, yes, I did hand deliver. Okay, that's what we need.
We could get the IRC communications department to put something together, and then the Hope House. People they can deliver and explain or answer any questions.
Councillor Merrill.
And even if the people proposing this even go on CBC one lunch hour and explain what it is, I think then you'll get a lot more, you'll get really positive buy-in, is my impression.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Come to a decision for Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 8.4.
If possible, can you guys attend again on Wednesday in case there's more questions? Okay,
Thanks, Kate.
thank you.
8.4, fees and charges policy amendment. And this is take into account the new ball fields, soccer field, so on. Sports field fees. You have the recommended fee schedule in front of you. Any questions, comments? Councillor Devlin?
I'd like to note that I'm sort of disappointed that we didn't have any representatives from ball associations here to ask any questions. I do have some concerns about the request. You know, we have 3 brand new fields. We've just purchased a new tractor. We've got some increased staff costs in order to maintain these fields. And the fee structure as was proposed and accepted by us, I felt was quite reasonable, especially considering that this is often split amongst 10, 12 people on different teams. But one thing that I would like to ask the ball associations is just their sponsorship models, why they aren't getting corporate sponsors to cover these
I
costs.
think you're discussing 8.5,
Am I?
Councillor Devlin. We're on 8.4.
You know what? I will take this back and save it for 8.5. Thank you very much.
Any relevant questions for 8.4? Seeing none, everybody's fine with the fee structure?
I love it.
8.5, rates reduction for 2022 season on sports field fees. Councillor Devlin.
Yes. I won't repeat myself. We'll just, if the minutes could reflect what I just said, I would appreciate it. So I do have questions sort of about their sponsorship model. I know many of the teams are sponsors, certainly for the uniform costs and certainly some of their ongoing costs. There is an increase in cost this year. So I just did want to sort of ask the Ball Association about their sponsorship models and what they're doing to sort of mitigate the increase in costs, because they've got these brand new facilities as well. And I'm also looking at it from a small business perspective. I've never been approached by any ball teams to support them, but I also have a reputation of supporting curling teams and curling clubs and golf courses. So I am an active sports small businessman, but I've never been approached. So I'd really like to see, before we talk about doing a reduction, I'd like to see an effort put out to see if there's some corporate dollars that could support this at the current rates that we've got proposed. And I'd hope that on Wednesday, perhaps some of the ball members might be able to come in and help answer some of those questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Gowans.
I'm also disappointed we don't have anybody from the associations here tonight, and I'm also, like Councilor Devlin, hopeful we'll have people here on Wednesday. I don't think it's easy for us to make a decision when one of the associations hasn't even proposed anything really beyond what someone else is doing. Slow Pitch Association. I was at the meeting when the fees were introduced, and the discussion, I was optimistic about reasonable fees and reasonable discussions, but I don't see how it can be so low. I don't think it's feasible for us to accept a lower amount like what they proposed. Given it's on us to maintain the fields. So I'm hoping there's a little more give and take from the associations and something a little more tangible that we can actually discuss. So.
I think that's why they should have been here tonight. Councillor Merrill.
And so I've just brought it up here. I mean, one of the things that concerns me when we get, they can't make a definitive breakdown, basically talking about adults playing baseball. However, part of the fees that they pay, umpires, tournament, cash prizes. I don't think we should be subsidizing our baseball fields so people playing baseball can have cash prizes. They can go and fundraise otherwise for that, because we need to keep these fields in good shape for a long time to come and for everybody.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just 2 quick questions. One, just to the point that was just made about fundraising things, I'll just say that the Ball League hasn't done fundraising in years. And so this, not trying to, defend anybody or anything, but this is pretty new to them too. Just gonna throw that out there. The other question I had was, when it does come to fundraising and if they're gonna find sponsors, is the town open to having logos and stuff on the fences? And is that partnership working in that way as well? If the Ball League does raise funds from businesses in town, can they hang their stuff on the fences and whatever? And you don't have to answer that right now, but maybe that's part of the discussion that has to happen between the town and the league if they're gonna go out and actively fundraise for stuff. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, it just seems like super low and it's the first year. I kind of get it for minor ball, but like you say, I mean, I play ball, it's adults playing ball. And yes, oftentimes there are teams that are sponsored by a company, there are some that aren't. But I don't know, just like anything, if it's adults doing it, sometimes you gotta pay out of pocket, right? Like, so, I don't know, I think there's a part of me that thinks, yeah, it's the first year, we should give them a break, but giving them $472 of a $525 break, it seems a little much. I could see if it was a half cost or something, but yeah, I don't know, I have a tough time with the amount of the reduction.
Councillor Gallons.
But I guess maybe SAO Hood can answer this question, but I mean, given the fee they propose, is it feasible for the work to be done to maintain the fields if they're to pay this?
Well, we've invested, $50,000 in a tractor, so, for starters. And the idea of part of it is in recreation, it's not necessarily recouping all your costs in your fees. No municipality makes money on recreation, than that, and so it's there for a purpose. However, the fees, and I will say that if you want, I can have somebody get a hold of representatives to come on Wednesday. I'll be honest, we didn't ask them to come. And that, so before you beat up on them too much, you can beat up on me a little bit if you'd like. But I, from an administration point of view, I believe that the fees are too low as well. And one of the, especially the tournament ones, to me, I don't, from an administration point of view, they can charge tournament, it's a different animal than a league fee, right? Where they can charge an entry fee into the tournament. So they should be able to recoup the costs. So that's how I look at it. The other thing council can do is these are just their requests. Council can say, no, we don't want those numbers. No, yes, we'll give you a reduction, but this is what the reduction will be. These are just what they would like to see, but not necessarily what council has to get.
Councillor Merrill.
So to put in perspective, if you want to rent the town's barbecue, it's $250 plus $12.50 in taxes for $260.50. Like, do that twice, raise your money. Like, really, these fees, when I look at them compared to hockey, swimming, and everything else, they're very reasonable. We charge everybody else to use the facilities. And if people are surprised that it might cost to pay a ball, then they can deal with their surprise and pay up. We're not talking about people that are broke, they're playing ball. We're not talking about children who have no money. We're talking about adults.
You're right.
Just so you know, and as it's in 8.4 of that, we did look at what other jurisdictions do charge. And these aren't the most expensive, they're not the cheapest either, but again, but that's what we feel is reasonable to recoup, what we feel is reasonable revenue for what we're doing. Like I say, it's not covering all our costs.
We're definitely not making any money.
Nor do we plan on it. That's not the purpose.
Any further comments? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Well, since we're here now, I wonder, like, do other counselors think that a 50% reduction for year one would be more appropriate? Do you think it should be just a 25%, 70? Like, where are you guys sitting at? If we need to change this up for Wednesday, like, I would be interested in knowing.
Are we reducing all other fees by any amount this year? That's my question. Like, we're not reducing it for the pool, we're not reducing it for hockey, for anything else. We're not reducing it if you want to rent the barbecue or go play in the play zone. So why would we reduce it by any amount for baseball? It's a reasonable rate. We need to look after the fields. And I think one part of the dilemma is people are used to not having to pay to use the fields, but We have to. We
Really
need to look
reality.
after them. We have the equipment to look after it. It's our responsibility. We put a lot of money into those after, moving things around and going from the other side of where the school is now to over here. It's taken a long time. It's a long-term investment. So I wouldn't reduce it by anything.
Councillor Harder?
And there's also a negative cost impact on the town. We did buy a new tractor, the staff that have to operate that tractor. I mean, there are fees that go into this.
Well,
and-
water.
Yeah, water, everything that gets applied to this, and I mean, we are talking about adults, so let's be realistic.
Councillor Devlin?
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand new facilities as well. And it's exciting being down there. I know, because we're down there 3 nights a week with minor ball now. But it's exciting being down there, and it is. It's maybe not a world-class facility, but it's an Arctic-class facility for sure. And it's reasonable. With 10 people on a team, it's $50 a person per season. It's quite a reasonable rate if you break it down.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski?
Just so for the way that it works, as a question to SAO Hood, I guess, for the youth minor ball, like, do they have teams? Like, is there 2 or 3 teams? So it would be like 600 or 780, 780, 750 or something for the whole season? Or for the whole league to happen? Or how would we go about even functionally charging them for the year?
Unfortunately, I'll have to plead ignorance on this one and not,
Okay.
that's right, and Louise is on leave right now, so.
Okay.
But I can probably try and get an answer for Wednesday.
Okay.
Even though tomorrow's a holiday, but I can talk to Steve just to see if, and again, it could be that we have to adjust something. Because I would even go back to the 8.4 with the fees there.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any final comments, Councillor Gowans? You're the only one hasn't commented.
I'll be brief. I kind of agree with consensus that, I'm also worried that if we start reducing fees in one recreational activity, then we're gonna be under pressure to do it across the board. I don't think it's onerous for someone who's an adult to pay $52.50 for a season. It's up to the team captains to get people to the games and get the money for their team. I don't think it's feasible for us to accept what they're proposing and actually maintain the fields. One of the things that was mentioned in the meeting was the expectation that fields would be good fields, not necessarily pristine fields, but good and playable. And I don't think it's feasible to accept this rate and come through with that if we're maintaining the fields ourselves. I mean, I'm open to more discussion with the associations, but I don't see how we can reduce the fees and still be fully responsible for maintaining the fields. So,
Thank you. Councillor Devlin, one last comment?
Yeah, just, I have no problem charging the adults full price, but will we discuss anything for the youth minor ball?
I'd like to know, like, the question to SEO Hood there about how that would work. If
How it work
it's
team
a seasonal charge or if there are teams, I think,
I mean,
because that would help me make that decision too.
yeah, I mean, I'm willing to move on minor ball in the right situation, but not with adults, I don't think.
Last comments? No? Okay. Bylaws 9.1. These are all third and final reading except the last one. The bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department. Any questions on that one? 9.1, sorry. We've already been through these. So. 9.2, bylaw for control of an emergency management program, third and final reading. Any questions? 9.3, bylaw to establish protective services fees for service, third and final reading. Questions? 9.4, a bylaw to repeal a bylaw, 88-1030 smoke detector bylaw. Any questions? Third and final reading. 9.5, fire hydrant bylaw, third and final reading. Questions? No. 9.6, senior citizens and disabled persons property tax relief, third and final reading. Questions? 9.7, levying of penalties on overdue property tax accounts, third and final. Any questions? 9.8, first and second reading. 2022 annual tax billing bylaw 2694/tax/22. Be it resolved to Newbury Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2694 tax 22. Excuse me, the annual tax billing bylaw, and second reading of the same. Any questions? Seeing none. Department head reports. Excuse me. 10.1, community services report. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Might be come up in the capital, I think, but looking like pool is gonna be a July date. Is that what we're seeing in here?
We have a pool. Oh. Well, I am intending to send out a public notice this week as to an update on that, but I will give council just where we are. The biggest challenge that we've had is with the contractor getting people up here. We're in the final stages, however, the tiling work has been done, which was a major thing and that. So we have been told July they will be coming up, and we've told them when they come up, they don't leave till it's done. They are just like everybody else. You see, you mentioned staff vacancies and stuff like that. And it's not, as I've said before, it's not a simple, there's a skill for putting the liner down, which is all that's left to do now, is to finish off part of the liner. The plumbing's all done, everything else. Get that, do pressure test on it, and away we go. So we don't have an exact date for July, but once we get that, then we'll go from there. And it's unfortunate. A lot of it's out of our hands. So that's the challenge that we've had. And it's not like we can say, okay, this contractor you're out, bring somebody else in as well. I apologize.
It will definitely be this year. Councilor Devil.
I guess maybe when Lise is back, but we just took down the lights in the community hall to move them over to the stage for the show last week. Lights on the grid.
Okay.
When I hope we reinstall them, could we set them so that they are permanent stage lights for the community hall? And I say that from both an event production perspective, but more particularly from a photographer perspective. We just had the grad ceremony, Aurora College grad ceremony on Friday. Their communications team came up to me, and I was supposed to shoot video for them, and they came up to me and said, "We're having so much problem shooting photos here, Tony." And I said, basically we wound up trading because I know how to shoot photos in the room, but it's an ongoing problem. It's a very dark stage, and we've been presenting ourselves as a high-class, world-class facility, but we just have this dark stage that's just not lit properly. I know it seems like a minor thing, but it's something that's been sort of consistent. We have the equipment, and so when we're reinstalling this time, if we could just set them on a one switch in the back room, then we can just go click, and there's the stage lit up. I can help out if you need.
Well, I certainly will get a consultant to assist us, because obviously we're not in the lighting business. But no, I appreciate the comments. The question I would have is, you mentioned that we took them over and put them on the stage within the event pavilion, correct?
Oh, no, not in the arena last week.
Oh,
with the
okay.
stage for the show. Yeah.
Okay, they didn't leave the building.
They didn't leave the building. No, they're in the building.
Okay. So just some training on us on how to put them back into proper lighting.
Yeah. I'll make a motion. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, moving on. Capital projects report. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Sorry, I'm just trying to reopen my phone. There's something near the bottom that says it's complete, but it has a $0.
Radar sign.
Yes. Is it free?
We just haven't gotten the bill for it. We've actually, we've got it in place, and that's where it gets confusing on this, because whether it's complete or not tells us where we are in the stage, unless you want to consider that we haven't paid for it, then it's 99% complete.
I see, okay.
So you may see some weird in between the percentages and all.
Any other questions? Okay, financial report, 10.3. Any questions? Information items for our research institute, there's nothing. Or I do council concerns, just a notice to council, I will be away for Wednesday's meeting. So Deputy Mayor Kulikowski gets to shine. Council concerns. Councilor Devlin.
This isn't a concern, it's more of a kudos. I want to say kudos and big ups to Jackie Chalice. Last week, Jackie, you pulled off that show without staff, and you did a tremendous job. And you rolled right into the weekend of that amazing Midnight Madness Arctic Market. And I just wanted to say congratulations and kudos. That was awesome.
Mayor, may I say this?
Yes.
Walking, I also fell down some steps. Thank you, Counselor. I just want to say that thank you for those comments. And indeed, as we all know, all the departments actually are without staff. And so while I have been quote unquote alone for 6 months since December, this whole weekend and week would not have happened without all the other directors and all the other staff. There was a lot of collaboration. Rick's team, Robin and Louise and Steve, and there was many people, all the guys at the complex. We are all working at an extreme capacity deficit in terms of staffing, and I was lucky to have, we actually did have some great also volunteers, and we did have some temporary staff, and also we have some newly hired, but I just want to acknowledge that I did work literally 3 weeks of 18-hour days, but we had help from yourself, we had help from Brand, we had help from every department. So I just want to acknowledge that everybody worked really hard, and there was all kinds of things that and are still happening, right? We still have things that are going in there prepping for tomorrow. You know, Steve was out there till 1:30 a.m. doing the midnight sun run. Like, it's definitely a group endeavor. So I just want to make sure that everybody is acknowledged, because that's really important. And I am grateful to all of the staff who have worked extremely long hours, not just in the last 2 weeks, but for like the last 6 months. And that's across the board. That's admin, that's, you know, Rick's team and Rick doing 3 jobs. I think we're all working a lot of many jobs, Grant doing finance, like we're all literally doing 3 or 4 jobs. So I just thank you for the comments. It is important that we recognize, and I say this as a like co-person in the admin or directors or whatever, it is really important that we recognize the work that the staff do, but all the staff and all the directors work really hard. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Any other council concerns, Councilor Merrill?
It's not a concern, but is there a parade tomorrow?
No.
Not
There's
great.
no parade. I need a moment.
Any other concerns? We have no in camera.
Could I give council just a quick update on that?
Yep.
So just to update, and following Jackie's, I have just from a personnel, yes, we do have, and there'll be something coming out a bit later this week on some positions that are now being filled. So we have a development officer, started last week. Last week was just trying to get stuff out. We just didn't have time. So We have a development officer started last week. We have a communications person starting on Wednesday. And we have a library services manager coming in July. So we are making progress. Not maybe as fast as we'd like, but we are getting there, and a number of the other ones close this week as far as.
Thank you. Nothing further, need a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Filipowski.
We offline now?
It's all